Have you ever had your child be resistant to homeschooling? Stick around, that's what I'm sharing about today. Hi, I'm Rebecca with the Parent Teacher Bridge, where you can find the ideas and resources you need to empower you to be your child's most influential teacher. Today, we're talking about a difficult topic. What do you do when your child is resistant to homeschooling? Maybe your child has a bad mood. They've woken up on the wrong side of the bed, or maybe they just don't like that you've asked them to do their work and they're not being busy on it. So, I'm going to share with you some of my experiences and what we do in our household. Before we begin, make sure to click like and subscribe, and along the way, drop a comment or a question. Some of you watching this may have some wonderful ideas to share with my viewers, and I would love to read them as well. In our family, we have 3 children that I am homeschooling. They're in grades 2nd, 4th, and 8th. So in that age range, it can be difficult to balance everybody and their level of work. I do try to cover some material that we do together as a family. It's usually a read aloud or Bible, or we may be doing some type of unit study. We may read some books with that, or even watch a documentary. Those are the things that we might do together. But otherwise, each child has their own set of work that they have to complete each day. Some days may look a little different than others, but that's generally what we're talking about. And my 8th grader, unfortunately for him, does have a larger workload than the other 2 children. He is taking 3 classes this year for high school credit. We primarily did that just to kind of spread out his high school over a 5-year period instead of 4-year period. We were able to take up to 3 for high school credit. So we are doing Spanish 1, biology, and algebra 1 for those assignments. Out of all 3 of my children, my oldest child is the most difficult student. And that's not because he, has a hard time learning. It's primarily because he has ADHD. We try to manage that the best we can, but he is not on any medicine for that. So what we try to do is manage that with learning healthy behaviors and routines. Now, a little bit about ADHD, it doesn't mean that your child cannot focus. It means they really have a hard time focusing on things they're not into. In fact, if it's something they are into, they can actually hyper focus and focus quite well on those things. It just may not be things that you are doing for school. So anytime you can, slant your school work toward anything they happen to have a natural interest in, that is going to be beneficial for you. So the first thing that I would say that will help you is to have routine. Anytime you break away from that routine, it's like a reset button for your child, and it makes it harder for them to adjust yet again. You can see this sometimes in children that have autism. They really love routine, but even in other children, routine is still going to help because it means certain decisions are already made. For example, if you know by 8:30 every morning, everybody's at the table having breakfast and you are having a discussion or a read aloud together, then that just takes that decision making out. The children know where they have to be at what time and what you are doing. If you have not started this yet and you get started on this, expect some resistance, but don't give in. If you can continue with a routine, it's going to make things so much easier. But it can take a while, just like we talk about forming habits, and it takes like 21 days in a row to form a habit, or whatever that statistic is that you hear out there in the exercise world. It can take a while for that routine to take place with your child. And each child may have a slightly different routine. In our household, we might use a checkoff list. So here's an example of a checkoff list that I send with my child when we go to tutorial. My 4th grader will go into a different room where he's kind of being watched by another person while I teach. And it's not really, a full on tutorial for him. It's for older children, but I needed a place to put my younger children. So they do kind of fun learning activities and they have breaks. But I wanted them to have a time where they could get some things done on those days. And so they have a study hall period. I just went into Google Docs and I made a checklist with these little squares. And so he knows each day he goes, he has to get his math done, which is in the folder, handwriting 1 or 2 pages. He has to do his journal. There's a skill book I send with him, and he can draw, color, or read if he is done. And he has to check off those things each day. You can make a simple check-off list for your child. For my 8th grader, I have a lesson plan book. It's just a simple lesson plan book that I got off Rainbow Resource. And it has large blocks for each subject area. And I just kind of pencil sketch in there what he is to do each day. And I let him actually mark it off that he is done with that assignment so he can visually see there's light at the end of the tunnel. I know that I'm almost done, or I don't get this special thing until I am done with my work for the day. Guys, we really struggle. I'm not going to paint some picture that's not true here. I have friends that their children, they don't really struggle with focus. They don't really struggle with motivation, and they are able to get all their schoolwork done before lunch. That would be my dream. Now, I do think that 2 of my children could learn to do that just fine. They just happen to pick up on some habits from their older brother. And so this is something that we are constantly struggling with, but I know that routine helps. The other thing that I'm going to say that you need to look at is what you are expecting of your child. And you may be perfectly correct when you say, well, he's in that grade level. He should be able to do this, and this by this time. And that may be true. But if developmentally he is not there because he's not learned to get to that point yet, you may have to back up and expect less for a brief amount of time and then gradually add back in what you expect. I know some people that do this every year when they start their school year. They might have their first year of school, the first day of school, and they may only choose to start with 1 or 2 subjects for that day, and they gradually add on more time. I did this, or they gradually add on more subject areas. I did this when I was teaching in school. When I was teaching elementary school students, and I had to have quiet reading time where everybody was quietly reading so that I could meet with small groups or meet with students individually. At the beginning of the year, I had to train them as a class to meet and work on their work quietly so that I could have uninterrupted time with small groups or individual students. And I might start that off at 5 minutes and see how well they do. And then I talk to them about what they did well, what they need to work on. And over time, I add more minutes to it, and it can get to be longer periods of time, like 15 or 20 minutes. So keep that in mind with your individual child. Maybe you're expecting a lot, and maybe that's great and wonderful, but if you're getting nowhere and you're having constant arguments about it, you may have to back that up for a while. An example of this recently was our Algebra 1. For Algebra 1, I am working with him out of a Saxon textbook. This is something he's familiar with. It's his second Saxon textbook to have. He catches on to math quite quickly, but I knew that we weren't going to be able to do math all 5 days of the week because we are gone all day on Tuesday for his tutorial where he has classes in art, biology, career exploration, and history of American music. And that's also his time to have some social time with friends and things like that. So I knew he wasn't going to be able to get math done. We're all zonked at the end of the day on Tuesdays. So I had penciled in that he would do math 4 days a week. So we would leave Tuesdays out. And as we started balancing his work for me and his work that he had for his tutorial, and there's one more class that I've kind of dealt out to someone else, and that is his foreign language class. As he was balancing his homework, it was getting to be too much. So I went and did the math. I knew that if he did math for 4 days a week, that he could finish math in a 30-week period. But I also knew, you know what? It's okay if it takes longer than 30 weeks. Last year, he finished his math book before the month of May. And I didn't want him to go all those summer months and the month of May with no math practice and then have to jump back into it in August. So we still did a little bit of math to keep him fresh. So I was like, okay, what if we don't do math 4 days a week? What if we do math 3 days a week? And where would that put us? So it put us at finishing at 40 weeks or a little bit more than 40 weeks. And I was like, you know what? That's a 2-month difference. That's fine. We can handle it. If it's going to make it easier for us to get our other assignments done and it's going to have a more peaceful learning environment, then let's do it. So that's what we have done. So now he knows that Monday is a math day, Wednesday is a math day, and Friday is a math day. And if you think about it, that's not all that different than some college schedules that have Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes and Tuesday, Thursday classes. So keep that in mind as you're looking at your child's schedule. So we've talked about routine and we've talked about expectations. The other thing that you can do with your child is just to have some conversation and some attention that you are giving just that child, whatever child is giving you, pushback. And that may be times where you're talking about what the struggle is and you're listening to them about their struggles. It may be times that you're just playing a card game, just you and that child, or a time that you just take that child to go do something. Like you have the little, mom and son dates or the daddy and daughter dates. Just make sure that they are getting that attention and you can give them even some goals to work for that you reward them with. If you can make it this many times with a good attitude, even if you don't get all your work done, but you have shown that you're working hard to get it done and you have a good attitude, then you can earn some type of reward or break. So I hope those ideas help you. Just keep that in mind. Think out of the box. Talk to other people about their experiences. Veteran homeschool moms have many things to offer about their experiences and what they have tried different years with different children. Do you have any other ideas? Leave them in the comment section below. If you have a question, you can leave that as well. And remember, parents, you are your child's most influential teacher.